What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another F125 My Team Career Mode video. Today's round 8 around Monaco. If you're looking for the race start, it's at 1 minute 55 seconds. But we are going to show a bit of qualifying this week as we kind of took it out a little bit a few weeks ago. As you can see, we're actually already on a purple lap. Qualifying started off as intermediate conditions. It was very slightly raining, but it was DRS active the whole time. So everybody else has set times on the intermediates. We're out on the softs. This is our second lap on the softs. You can see we've got 44% battery at the moment, and at purple sector 1 again as the track is just drying out. And yeah, we've been trying to do a bit better on Monaco. It's not really a circuit that I gelled with a lot previously, but so far it seems like a pretty tidy lap. Had to take 2 stabs at that turn-in before getting into the famous tunnel, and yeah, it was feeling okay. I'm still, changing settings a little bit, trying to improve my driving overall, and I have to say, so far, it looks like I'm doing alright if I don't pat myself on the back enough. But obviously there's still plenty of time to be found for me, as nowhere near the wall there. Pretty decent line through the chicane up towards Rascasse. A little bit of a lock-up on the front right, but we somehow make it work through the final corner, mounting the curb slightly on exit, but finding 2.5 seconds on a lap just after my previous purple lap. But into the race, we were out in Q1. It was pretty savage because obviously we set the lap on softs, and then I thought we were pretty much good enough to get through, but we weren't. And plan strategy, hard, medium, medium, but that is probably going to change. Onto the race though, all the lights are on. Now they're out as we go racing here in Monaco. We're on 110 AI, by the way, which is the first race I've ever done in career mode against 110 AIs. We had to actually take a avoiding action there on Liam Lawson, who is now just behind us on mediums. And yeah, we snuck around the outside of Ocon as best we could, but there's just nothing doing there. And I was feeling pretty confident going into this race. We did seem to have the pace from qualifying. In practice, as we sent it down the inside of 2 cars, in practice, when we did the qualifying pace kind of program, it was actually qualifying pace was first, but as we go around the outside of 2 cars at the hairpins, everyone's going very, very slowly. Don't know how we managed to find room there, but yeah, in practice our qualifying pace was first. I guess that didn't translate to the ever-evolving track conditions in Q1, which just sat us at the back. Everyone else managed to get their laps in after us, and it just ruined our chances of a good qualifying in Monaco, which is pretty much everything. But we've got some moves done in lap 1. We're up to 17th, and up ahead is actually our teammate in P16, Dennis Hauger, and he's hunting Gabriel Bortoletto in the Kick Sauber. But team orders, we are very much the first driver at this point. Obviously, because we're the player, get in the bin, teammates. But we've got Bortoletto ahead of us in P15. And I was hoping to do a bit of an overcut and, use the hards later and get ahead of the medium runners ahead of us. But a lot of drivers were running the hard as well. But now a quick little dive bomb down the inside of Bortoletto, and that does get us P15. We're still side by side through the hairpin, but this should be a pretty done deal. A little bit of oversteer actually in first around the hairpin. I normally like to use second, just a little bit more stable, I guess, through the car. We're not having to deal with those crazy revs that you get in first. But now, Isaac Hadjar, we're on lap 5. Do we dive bomb him? Yes, we do. Almost making contact with the barrier, and actually kind of ran Hadjar out of road there. So I think we've got to give the position back. But do we? No, we don't. No, of course not. There was no contact, so I'm going to assume that the FIA kind of saw it our way there. But let me know in the comments what you guys think, if that was something where I should have let him go again. But as I was kind of saying before, we wanted to use the hards to overcut people, but pretty much everybody around us is also on the hard tyres, so we don't really have any advantage. And in this year's game, Monaco is a 2-stop. It's a mandatory 2-stop, as it was in real life. So it's not like we can just use the hards forever and then pit for softs and be in a really good position, because there's 27 laps in this race and we have to make 2 stops at least. So I'm not really sure what the best strategy is for that. But you'll see in this race, we don't necessarily stick to our original strategy. So let's see how that turns out. But again, pretty tidy driving, to be honest. We've dropped Hadjar by about 2 seconds since we overtook him. And we're catching up very quickly on the Haas of Ollie Behrman. So we'll see what happens when we get up there. But we have unbelievable pace, you know, compared to the AI. When we have clean air, when we have, you know, space around us to maximize our performance. There's a purple sector 2 just to kind of illustrate that, as we actually lose the back end under brakes, which is something that, yeah, kind of puzzled me at the time, but kind of thinking about it and looking at my driving through there, it's kind of obvious as to why I was kind of just dragging the brake a bit too much. And with the brake bias, it was just rotating the car too much in that part of the corner, and even in turn 1 as you've seen it. But that turn 1 rotation really helps us to kind of keep up our minimum speed. But when we get into, you know, some of the chicanes later in the lap, you don't want the oversteer because you need to turn the other direction pretty much instantly. So yeah, there's a few instances where you'll see I have good corners, and then other instances where I really don't. But that's all learning, right? So we'll see how we get going. We're going to keep the career mode on 110 from now. It's kind of, I asked basically in the community, what do you guys think? And people kind of said, yeah, do 110 and see how it goes. But now we're kind of trapped behind Ollie Behrman in the Haas. We actually make contact slightly there with the rear diffuser of Behrman's car, but no damage done for our front wing. And yeah, we're just getting held up a lot. The leaders are now boxing. They're in the pit lane now. So we've lost a lot of time to where we probably should have been. I want to say should have been, because yeah, if we'd have just put a lap in at the end after the AI, we possibly could have been on pole. But there's the race leader, the net race leader, Lando Norris, just coming out of the pits now. So we still have two pit stops to make and no time to make it in. But down the inside of Ollie Behrman we go again, try and give him space, unlike what we did to Hadjar. But now under traction, here we go, thumbnail moment right there. We do send it down the inside, and we somehow keep the car out of the barrier, even with all the oversteer that we had. I think the tyres have definitely seen better days. We've done not quite half the race yet, which, you know, I think on hard tyres we should be able to do half the race pretty easily, but it's not really optimal for the race pace, if that makes sense. It's not the quickest way to the checkered flag. But we are now leading the Monaco Grand Prix with 0% battery and a very fast McLaren behind us on brand new tyres, who really wants to get past, because we're ruining Norris's race right now. Verstappen is very close, and Piastri is not too far away, and Leclerc as well. We're doing the Alonso strat, is what we're doing here. Everyone aboard the Voisin train, as we'll say. But again, pace isn't too bad. Like, Monaco, obviously, yeah, it's all about kind of each lap maximizing every inch of the surface, and we're not that consistent at this track. It's not a track I'd traditionally enjoy, but I have to say it was very fun racing against 110 AI around here. If you're seeing if you can race against 110 AI, do it in Monaco. That's what I would say. It's possibly the most fun I've had in an F1 game in a little while, just purely because it's that challenge for me, but also with AI that can actually do a really consistently good job. So I'm going to box this lap 12. We're going to come in. Original plan was the mediums. We're switching that to the softs. For a second I did almost go intermediates, which would not be a good idea. There's no rain expected for us at all today, so we should be able to overcut some people. But there's an issue with the front left removing the tyre, which actually slows us down. Basically gave us 2 pit stops there. So now let's just get back into this gap that we've actually found pretty nicely, to be honest. A few seconds up ahead, a few seconds behind, so we're pretty clear ahead of our teammate, about 3 seconds once we get up to speed. And within a couple of laps, we're on the back of Hadjar, who was 5 seconds up the road plus. So we've definitely got pace in the car as we made contact with the outside wall of turn 1, which did do a bit of damage to our front left tyre. But you can see, although we have this insane pace on the soft relative to those around us, as soon as you hit the back of another car, you can't do anything, really. I'm going to try and go around the outside in the hairpin, but nothing really doing there. Again, oversteer in first gear, so definitely take the hairpin in second if you can. And yeah, the only real hope we have of getting past cars is getting good traction out of the corner and then potentially doing a move down the inside here, but we're massively too quick. And I think I did make contact with Hadjar there, so we're going to give him the position back and actually not overtake him into the next corner, just so we don't upset the stewards too much today. We've already upset the team a bit too much. We just need to try and get forward. So we gave him the position back. Let's see what we can do here. We're actually going to send it down the inside of the final corner, which is never a place you want to overtake, but we just managed to make it work because the grip on the tyres. And if you're watching on any other device than your phone, and you have your phone in your hand or your pocket or wherever, you can go back a little bit. You'll see a little subscribe QR code there, which will take you to YouTube and basically just ask you if you want to confirm the subscription. Now, a few laps later, we actually came out ahead of Leclerc, who pitted just before us, obviously. We're on lap 22 now, and the leaders came into box. The McLarens were out there. No way I was going to get ahead of those in the second round of pit stops, but we did get ahead of Leclerc, and we're actually doing the McLarens a massive favour in this race and holding up the Ferraris. So yeah, no way we're going to get a win at this point unless there's a late safety car, which is kind of what I'm goal hanging for. But I just think there's no chance at this point, really. If there's not a safety car now, there won't be. Even then, we're going to have a bit of a tyre offset and new softs. So, yeah, we're going to box this lap, try and get in a good time. We actually did slightly gap the Ferraris there. I think they were battling behind us. But yeah, we're going to stick on some fresh boots, hopefully come out in a decent gap that is ahead of, I believe it's the Haas and the RB that's just rounding Raskas now, which it looks like we will do pretty securely. But we've got Alonso in P10 and then Verstappen P11 directly ahead of us. So with any luck, we can actually come out of this race with a point, which would be, I think, a pretty decent achievement from P22 on the grid. And Mark, as we're having a bit of a moment there, we're pushing quite hard, as you can tell. We're actually under-fueled as well, but Mark was saying that there might be some weather in 5 minutes, but that's not going to impact this race at all, because it'll be done in 2 minutes or so. And yeah, we really need to get to the back of the Red Bull of Max Verstappen and the Aston Martin of Fernando Alonso. We do have some fuel saving to do, no battery, but we've got some fresh tyres and decent pace. So let's see what we can do here. Is through this chicane we go, and it's looking like we're catching them at a massive rate of knots, which is a very appropriate use of language because of all the yachts, and that rhymed, so you're welcome. But it looks like we're going to be around 2 seconds behind them when we finish this lap, and then it's the final lap that we've got to make all the difference. We don't even have DRS. We've got 0.09 laps of fuel less than we should to finish the race. So let's see if we can actually get there and not lose any positions. I don't think we're at risk of losing positions because Hadjar is 10.5 seconds behind us. And again, with any luck, we can get ahead of Alonso and Verstappen at a decent point where we can make enough distance to keep the positions and get some points as well. But here we go. Half a lap left to go of the Monaco Grand Prix. A couple of positions up for grabs if we can get a decent bit of racing in before the checker flag. But through the tunnel we go. There's only really maybe 2 more overtaking opportunities. We don't have the space at all to do it here. But we do get some decent traction out of that chicane. And do we dare go for a move? Not again on any car. I think that's the only ever time I'm going to make that kind of move that late in the race. But we've got all sorts of pace. We're hitting the walls, just trying to push, and we're going to go round the outside of the Red Bull. We're going to try and squeeze him out in the final corner, and there's actually sound of contact behind. But we are running out of fuel now, and here comes Verstappen. Does he have enough track left in the pace? No, he doesn't.
And that's the end of the race. We'll see you in Parc Fermé.
What a race to only get P11. And like, we got past half of the grid and driver of the day. I'm pretty happy with that. I would have loved points and a win, but not today.
Oscar Piastri, take a bow. What a performance. What a win.
It was a joy to watch today, honestly, because the driver was clearly able to read the conditions well on track, to use the information properly from the team, and usually come up with the right solution at the right time.
Yeah, McLarens were just unstoppable.
It's what they've all been racing towards, waiting for them. High above the pit lane is our podium. And for the lucky three, it's time to stand on it. They give out trophies for the winners. Today, they're Oscars. Your winner today, Oscar Piastri.
I think he said Oscar too many times there. I don't know what you guys think of some of the voice lines in this year's game. Some of them just make me cringe so much, but I'm gonna keep including them because, yeah, we can't all be happy and comfortable all the time. If I have to listen to the cringe, I'm gonna make you guys listen to it too.
After an event like that, who knows what the sport has in store for us next time out? Be sure to join us once again as we continue to bring you all the excitement of Formula One.
Indeed, and let's just run through the race in general. Oscar Piastri with the fastest lap and the win from P4 on the grid. Lando Norris' teammate in second, then comes Leclerc to round out the podium, 16 seconds behind him. But then we've got Russell, Tsunoda, Sainz, Hülkenberg, Antonelli, Gasly, Alonso, ourselves in P11, then Verstappen, Hadjar, Ocon, Stroll, Hauger, Albon, Hamilton, Behrman, Doohan, Lawson and Bortoleto in 22nd, which is surprising actually because Bortoleto had a pretty decent position at one point. But a McLaren 1-2 in the drivers. We're down there in P5. We will be dropping a bit like a stone now that we've turned the AI right up. And obviously McLaren running away with the constructors. It's, yeah, pretty easy to see the relationship with real life there. But highlights are here for you now. If you want to watch any of those moments again, there will be a couple of moments as well that maybe weren't in the video. They just weren't really, yeah, I don't think they were really that applicable. But almost a last to first if the other 10 drivers ahead of me DNF'd. But I think not a bad race to go on with 110 AI for the first time. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I know a bunch of you will be faster than me, and that is totally fine. I'm still learning. I've actually got a book to help me read. I don't know if one day I should send a picture of my setup as a post just to show you what I'm working with. It's basically a dining chair. And yeah, it's maybe not ideal, but it works, and I'm enjoying what I'm doing, so that's the main thing. But let me know, are you guys on pad or wheel or keyboard if you dare? Joystick maybe, I don't know. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you guys play on and what AI you play on as well. That'd be really interesting to know. I'm always looking to find out how many people are faster than me, because it's an increasing number every single day, I'm sure. But that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, subscribe, all that housekeeping business. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in a few days for yet another F1 25 video.